The Trolley Problem, a thought experiment that reshaped moral philosophy and now drives the ethics of autonomous machines. Picture this. A runaway trolley is hurtling down the tracks. Ahead, 5 workers are trapped. They cannot escape. But there is a side track, and on that track, only 1 worker stands in harm's way. You stand beside a lever. If you do nothing, 5 die. If you pull it, 1 dies. There is no third option, no time to warn anyone. What do you do? This is the trolley problem, and your answer reveals something deep about your moral instincts. Today's journey. 01 The origins, 02 the ethical divide, variations and twists, 04 real-world applications, 05 criticisms and relevance. Origins. The trolley problem was born in 1967 in a paper by Oxford philosopher Philippa Foot. But here's what surprises most people. Foot was not originally writing about trolleys at all. Her paper was titled The Problem of Abortion and the Doctrine of the Double Effect. The runaway tram was one thought experiment among several she used to explore a deeper question, whether the intention behind an action changes its moral weight. In her version, you are the driver, not a bystander. That distinction matters more than you might think. A decade later, American philosopher Judith Jarvis Thomson transformed the debate. She reframed the problem. What if you are not the driver but a bystander standing beside a switch? This shift was profound, because now the question is not about your duty as the driver, but about whether you are morally required to intervene at all. Her 1976 essay sparked an explosion of academic literature. Suddenly, everyone in philosophy had an opinion about trolleys. 6. The ethical divide. At the heart of the trolley problem lies a clash between 2 great ethical traditions. On the left, consequentialism, the view that the right action is the one that produces the best overall outcome. If pulling the lever saves a net 4 lives, you pull it. On the right, deontology, associated with Immanuel Kant, which insists that certain actions are categorically wrong no matter the consequences. From this perspective, actively causing someone's death, even to save others, violates a fundamental moral rule. The trolley problem does not solve this divide, it makes it painfully visible. This is the idea Foot was defending all along. The doctrine of double effect says, it can be permissible to cause harm as a foreseen side effect of a good action, but never permissible to intend that harm as your means to the good end. When you pull the lever, the one person's death is a side effect of redirecting the trolley, not the mechanism by which you save the 5. But when you push a large man off a footbridge to stop the trolley, his death is the very means of saving others. That difference, Foot argued, is morally decisive. This is the most famous variation, and the one that reveals the deepest tensions. In Thomson's Fat Man version, there is no lever. You are on a footbridge above the track, standing next to a very large man. If you push him onto the tracks, his body will stop the trolley and save the 5, but he will die. Logically, the math is identical, 1 sacrificed for 5, yet almost nobody says you should push. Why? Because the physical act of pushing someone to their death engages our moral psychology in a way that pulling a distant lever does not. The variation exposes the gap between abstract principle and embodied moral intuition. 10. Beyond the classroom. This is where the trolley problem leaves the philosophy seminar and enters the engineering lab. Autonomous vehicles will inevitably face split-second decisions, swerve and hit a pedestrian or stay course and harm the passenger. Industry experts projected 10 million self-driving vehicles on American roads by 2020. The question is no longer hypothetical. When a car must choose, whose ethics govern the algorithm? The programmers? The manufacturers? Societies? The trolley problem has become a design specification, and the stakes are measured in human lives. Now let's turn to the critics, because the trolley problem, for all its fame, has serious detractors. In 2014, researchers argued in the Social and Personality Psychology Compass that these scenarios are simply too extreme and too disconnected from the moral situations we actually face in daily life. Nassim Jafari Naimi went further in 2017, warning that using the trolley problem as a template for algorithmic morality is built on fundamentally flawed premises. Her concern is that this reductive framework serves the most powerful at the expense of genuine ethical deliberation. The question critics force us to ask is whether we're actually sharpening our moral reasoning or just playing an intellectual game with no real stakes. Despite those criticisms, the trolley problem refuses to go away, and I'd argue that's because it taps into something fundamental about how we reason morally. It forces us to confront the tension between our instinctive reactions and our calculated judgments, a tension that plays out in real boardrooms, parliaments, and engineering labs. During the COVID-19 pandemic, leaders faced genuine trolley-like dilemmas, lockdowns that protected the many at the cost of severe hardship for the few. And as we've seen with autonomous vehicles, engineers are now encoding these very philosophical choices into machine decision-making systems. The dilemma endures isn't really about trolleys at all. It's about the architecture of moral choice itself. So here we are at the end of the track. After 50 years of debate, thousands of papers, and countless variations, what does the trolley problem actually ask of us? It's not about finding the right answer. Philosophers still disagree, and that's exactly the point. It's about understanding why you chose what you chose. When you reach for that lever, or decide not to, you reveal something about your deepest moral commitments. Who you value, what principles you hold sacred, and where you draw the line. That self-knowledge, I'd suggest, is far more valuable than any correct solution. The trolley keeps running. The question is, who are you when it passes by?